Where does personalization start sounding like this is too scary for my privacy?
If I send like 10 emails out, cold emails, you would expect an open rate to be very, very high, like 60, 70, 80%, because it's not going to be flagged for spam if it's such a small number by sending to kind of these fresher emails that with more engaged in market.
But if somebody starts sending something which is much more personalized information about somebody's the personal life, then it becomes little creepy for people. Then it becomes scary.
So it's just hard to find things in ads that are scalable where you can like double the quantity and reduce the price, and just happens to be one of those few things.
Hi Larry, good morning and welcome to the 10xMarketer podcast. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself and then let's get into the episode right away.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. My name's Larry Kim. I'm the founder and CEO of Customers.ai. We're the most accurate website visitor identification solution on the planet, correctly identifying, with an accuracy rate of like 70, 80, 90%, a significant fraction of your website visitors. And this compares to other visitor identification solutions that work at maybe 5 or 10 or 20% accuracy rate. Before that, I was the founder of WordStream, which was the world's largest pay-per-click advertising tool, managing $1 billion of ad spend for tens of thousands of customers. That was acquired by Gannett in 2018 for almost $200 million.
Let's straight away get into the episode. I want to ask you one simple question to start with. I've been listening to some of the content that you have on internet around email fatigue specifically, and that got me interested in talking to you in detail. We want to base this episode on that. So it's very common issue, and there are some early warning signs that definitely people can see that the list is becoming fatigue. So according to you, where does it start and what are the proactive actions that businesses can take? What are the specific early warning signs that people should look up to?
Sure. If I send like 10 emails out, to even cold emails, you would expect an open rate to be very, very high, like 60, 70, 80%, because it's not going to be flagged for spam if it's such a small number. Because you're not sending like 100,000 copies of the same thing, something like so open rates are very, very high. The challenge is like if you have these newsletter lists that are like 10 to 30% open rates, I mean that's pretty terrible. Like that means like most of the people you're sending this email to aren't seeing it. And so the core issue is just one of list fatigue, that the first time you email somebody, you're going to have the highest positive and negative engagement. So you'll have the highest opens and clicks and replies, but you'll also have the most complaints and unsubscribes. So but that positive and negative engagement quickly declines. On the second email, like a 50% open rate drops to 35. On the third email, the 35 drops to 28. Like there is residual value of emailing them more than once, but it does decline. And I don't know if everyone's kind of looked at the cohorts of like how quickly that declines. And it turns out that if you visited a restaurant like 1 or 2 years ago and you got added to their newsletter, you might not be interested in it anymore. So it's quite a dilemma that what we're asking people to do is to delete these contacts, which they paid so much money for like it was like a Google ad or a Facebook ad, or it's list building is takes forever and it's hard. But if you let these lists grow to like big lists where they're dumping grounds of email piles of everyone who's ever interacted with your brand, that can also be just like dead weight that destroys your overall deliverability. And so so that's the problem, and what we're asking people to do is to delete the unengaged segment, like the people who haven't clicked or opened 30, 60, 90 days seems appropriate.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question, because customers.ai is one of the prominent platform, as you already talked about it, and you must be generating thousands of email almost on the daily basis, like adding new emails are getting added to your email list. What are the strategies that you use specifically, one, to control the email fatigue, And second, to build engagement with your new visitor versus the visitors who have been already in your database for a long time.
Sure. As I was saying before, nobody wants for emails because they worked so hard for it or paid so much money for it. But what if we could change the equation so that list building wasn't hard? Like what if it was freaking easy? What if 10 or 15 or 20% of your website traffic could be converted to emails so that instead of signing up 10 or 20 emails on your list a day, what if it was like 1,000 or 5,000 emails a day? And so that's possible using website visitor ID solutions. Customers AI is the most accurate of all the solutions in the market. It's not always right, but it's right most of the time, like 70, 80%. Other vendors we see they're wrong, like 80, 90, 95% of the time they're wrong. Like they give you the wrong email address. It's kind of a fraud. But anyways, if we could provide the correct email addresses, then what happens is that you can just give your list sort of like this blood transfusion, like injecting life into a dead list. Maybe you don't want to delete all the dead contacts right away because of emotional attachment or whatever. But what you should be doing is deleting 10,000 old emails and adding 10,000 fresh ones. And then this is a really interesting way of increasing deliverability because by not sending to those emails that were not really resonating, and by sending to kind of these fresher emails that with more engaged in market people, that'll actually increase your engagement rates, like clicks and email opens and replies and stuff like this, and it will improve the deliverability of the kind of middle contacts that you haven't yet deleted, but that were probably just being algorithmically filtered.
Yeah, so I think that is a difficult task for any business owner. One, keeping track of how many people are getting added on daily basis and what are the engagement rate. So if there is a tool that significantly adds value in terms of adding new email addresses, it's kind of a boon for a business. Now, the next question that I have, which is more on the hesitation that you have been already talking about, on removing the old emails or inactive email addresses, because that's very close to my heart. I don't want to lose them. Maybe one day they'll convert. So what is the strategy that uses? Let's say I don't want to delete the old emails, but I don't want to send them email on almost on a daily basis, because that will anyway irritate them, or they may stop opening my emails. Because if I look at my own inbox, there must be 6 to 7,000 emails that are not opened. So there may be some people who are sending thousands of emails and not getting opened at all. So what should be the strategy for them?
I think that one strategy could be, I mean, if you don't want to delete them all, is to switch to more of a flow-based email approach rather than a newsletter-based email approach. So the newsletter-based is like it's literally a dumping pile of emails, and you just keep dumping more emails on it, and every week you send out 2 newsletters to the whole group. Those are, if you look in your promotions and spam boxes, it's mostly those types of newsletters that get caught, because it's not that hard for Gmail to notice that the same email got sent like 100,000 times or something like that. It's kind of like a dead giveaway. The alternative is to go with these flow-based, like signal-based emails, and that's where you just keep a list of, and this is something you can implement in a tool like Customers AI. This is where you keep a list of all the people who visited your site in the past and signed up for something, but you don't necessarily email them unless they become re-engaged. And so how it works is like, we can ID visitors, when they arrive, both new and existing, and maybe instead of like emailing them a newsletter twice a week, if they haven't engaged for 6 months, like just keep them on file and then send them like a kind of a custom welcome back email message. If you notice, using one of these visitor ID solutions like Customers AI, like if you notice that they're coming back, then send them something like specialized, custom to their user journey. So like, what product did they view, what service did they view, like that kind of thing. And what you'll find is that it feels great to send out a lot of emails, but like, a very small percentage of flows, like flows could, these intent-based triggered emails could represent like, 5% of your total emails by volume, but it will actually result in 50, 60, 70% of the actual,
Engagement.
the conversion events like sales or signups or whatever. So,
Understood. Okay. Now let's talk about one of the internet's favorite topic, that is the spam complaint rate. And the threshold is less than 0.03%, I think. But one important aspect of this is, I mean, that is my understanding. I don't have any data. You might have data on this. What I found based on the email list that I have is almost 95% email addresses are the Gmail addresses actually when you are dealing with a D2C customer database. And Google is very smart at detecting the spam. And they also have a promotion tab. So one constant battle is how do I land up in the inbox? So maybe promotion is uh, less open rate as compared to the inbox.
yeah,
And
these filters are all like they're all AI driven. Like they're looking for engagement signs, and stronger engagement signs will get you in the inbox. Like even that the 0.03% complaint rate will get you labeled as a bulk sender, and so that will kill your deliverability. But like, there's a lot of people who aren't getting the 0.3 spam complaint, but still are ending up in the promotions tab. You see what I'm saying? So like it's not just about flying below the 0.3% complaint rate. There's more to it. The engagement rate of the emails have to also be quite high, and so that's kind of what we're talking about. Like, deleting the zombies on your list and trying to inject new life into it, in a measured way, so that there's a balance of new unproven emails. Like, we hope they're interested, with older, existing emails, but not too old. It's pretty nuanced.
so there are two aspects to it when maintaining the deliverability and staying below the radar. One part is the content that goes inside the email. It depends on you how salesy you are. Google will decide where to put you. And the second aspect that you have been advocating a lot is making unsubscribing easier. So
Yes.
maybe you can talk about both the strategies. First, let's focus on the content side, and then how to make unsubscribing easy. What are the steps for that?
Sure. Look, it's just people. If you feel like you don't want to unsubscribe people, or you want to make it hard for people to unsubscribe, I think that's a terrible strategy,
Yeah.
because the way that Google, kind of, computes your spam rate is how many people click on the report spam button. Okay. Now, normally, if you visit a store and then want to come, because that store, you're not going to report them as spam. Like, usually you'll try to unsubscribe first,
Yeah.
using the traditional link. In which case, there's nothing wrong with that. Then it doesn't get reported to Google as spam. But if you make it too hard for people to unsubscribe, like where's the link? Like everyone tries to make it like so small, and once you've arrived to that landing page, they make it like super confusing and hard to unsubscribe. Like, that's when people get frustrated and they'll just hit the spam button. So if someone's willing to click on the unsubscribe link, that's actually a gift. Like, thank God they're saying that they want to get off the list. Because like the alternative is much worse. They click the spam button. So I'm like pretty crazy about like making it super easy to unsubscribe. I advocate for like multiple unsubscribed links. Like like have one in the footer, but have one in the copy. Like, make it so easy for, like, if people don't want to be on the list, then that's a risky proposition. It endangers the rest of your list deliverability, and just get them out of there as quickly as possible. And so that, on the content side, It's like double or triple unsubscribe links, and then a very easy experience. But it's also about the the engagement rates and stuff like this, like hitting people like with the flow based things, like here's a coupon code for the thing that you left in your cart. Like they tend to appreciate and engage with those more. And so, like, bottom line, it's like this is table stakes, like having a simple unsubscribe, but having the flow based emails to really increase the engagement of the list is very critical. Like that kind of supports your whole email deliverability, like the positive engagement that you're getting from the flow based emails triggers, and that allows you to then send a bunch of stupid newsletters, and get okay deliverability. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so next question, and that is most important for many people. So there is something like you want to personalize the email and you also don't want to sound creepy. So your customers should not feel that you are tracking them all the time. You know everything about them. Where does personalization stops? Like where does it start sounding like this is too scary for my privacy?
Um, you know, I just think that you should be like ultimate customer support. Like it's just like if you're at a store and someone asks you if you need help with whatever it is you're looking at. So those emails should be super targeted to the context of which they were engaging in your website. Basically, I'm advocating for super targeted flows like product abandonment, form abandonment, and to reflect the wording of the those abandoned pages, like in the copy of the outreach. I don't really have a problem with being super specific. I suppose you probably wouldn't want to say like, here's some information about that disease you have or something like like maybe there's certain areas where you could cross the line, but generally, like I just want to provide them with the most relevant follow-up as possible.
Great. So I think personalization at the behavior level is okay. I mean, people appreciate that. Like, this is what you were doing, and this is the next step for you. So that part they appreciate. But if somebody starts sending something which is much more personalized information about somebody's the personal life, then it becomes little creepy for people. Then it becomes scary.
Uh, it's still what matters in the eyes of Google is the engagement rate,
Mm-hmm.
and so just keep in mind like these super personal things, even if they're a little creepy, will probably help your engagement rate.
Yeah, that's also true. So that people will open more in those cases.
I think so.
And maybe in some cases, your wives may also open emails that are super personalized.
Uh, yeah, well, look, I just think it depends on the vertical basically. Like there's
Yeah,
some
true.
that are like more like legal or health, like are more regulated. So you have to be
Mhm.
more more subtle.
So one of the important aspect of like ID resolution is, as you already talked about a lot, is the fraud identifications or people identifying the wrong email IDs. Then also there is aspect of finding the right email IDs of someone who, like there are two aspects to it. Like one, if I've been to your website earlier and I might have submitted my email ID. Other is I'm going as an anonymous visitor and the store is somewhere able to identify the IP address and then connect me to a cookie and an email address. And then I end up getting an email from them. Uh, what kind of first response people usually have with this kind of email coming to them?
Uh, I think that's it's kind of expected, really. It's like a higher class of customer service and follow up. Like they should know.
Mm-hmm.
People like you browse a lot of websites, and you uh, might not remember the
Mm-hmm.
names of every product that you looked at, and to
Yep.
have something of record in your inbox, I think is super valuable. But there was another part of that that you're saying was that like there's a huge problem around like data accuracy. Can we
Mm-hmm.
talk about that? Can we talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit?
we can. We can.
Yeah. So there's no shortage of ID vendors on the planet. There's
Mm-hmm.
like probably like 30, 50 companies that do this. It's hard to know if the emails that they're providing you are correct or
Mm-hmm.
if they're wrong. Typically,
Mm-hmm.
they're never 100% wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but the error rate might surprise you. Like this, I think this whole industry is like such a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Typically what we see when we look at some of the leading vendors
Mm-hmm.
is that the accuracy rate can be as low as like 5 to 30%. That
Mm-hmm.
means that they're wrong, you know, 70 to 95% of the time. So it's hard to know exactly if they're the right emails or not. And the way that you can do a test, and anyone can do this, is just to look at the subset of verified sessions on your website. So
Mm-hmm.
typically, when someone does a purchase on like an e-commerce store or fills out a form on a B2B site, at that instant you have like a pretty high understanding of who that person is, right? Because it says Larry Kim or something. That's like, whoever ordered the thing. You can then kind of look back in time a little bit and just to see like what did the ID provider say this person was, you know, when they first entered, and then you can kind of compare to see like, okay, what was the guess and what was the true value, and
Mm-hmm.
then based on that like that accuracy rate, you can kind of uh, make a projection of what the accuracy is for the whole sample, because it's hard to validate people where you don't know
Mm-hmm.
who they are, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just saying, trust me, it's this guy, but like it's
Yeah.
90% of the time it's just someone who is using the same IP address,
Yep.
and it's just some completely other random person. So we've been doing that on a lot of customers, and what we're finding is like the way that we do things is completely different, and we're able to kind of flip it around. So like if someone has like a 70-80% error rate, 20% correct, like we can flip that around and make it like 80% correct, 20% error. Like we're not saying error, it's
So,
perfect,
I mean,
but
that
we can
makes
flip
me
it around.
curious about identifying process. Like, what is the process for identifying ID resolution and how the accuracy is measured? So, you talked about accuracy measurement on the end user side, but there must be some measure of accuracy at the vendor side also, like customer AI side also. Like, what is the process of finding that person? And second is, what is the process of validating whether it's a correct email ID or not?
I think uh, there's the way that most companies do it, which is just like leveraging third-party industry data from
Mm-hmm.
DSPs or co-reg networks.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is it's just so like fraudulent. Like the co-reg networks or stuff like payday loans, or just anybody's filling out these stupid forms.
Mm-hmm.
And then the DSP data is subject to like so much bots and fake form fills and stuff like this. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why the error rate is like so high, like 70, 80, 90, 95% is typical. We don't do it that way. Like we've come up with a completely different original way of determining an ID graph and maintaining that. And it's just a very different way of doing it. I don't have enough time to go into it right now, but it's completely different. And we own like all the steps in the process as well. Like it's not we have visibility into the underlying data. The problem is that these third-party vendors are just licensing black boxes of data that they have no idea of how that data was created, or what's in it, or what the accuracy rate is, and it's a joke.
Understood. Okay. So the next part is retargeting and remarketing. I think you are very fond of remarketing, and you have been talking about it a lot actively. So when you have an email list, what is the right remarketing or retargeting strategies? Should it only be based on the behavior of a person, whether they are visiting back a website, or how do you wake up somebody who have been in the slumber for, let's say, 6 7 months, never opened your email?
Yeah, so that's another way of warming up a dead list is to, you know, have that list sent over to Meta or, YouTube ads or whatever, create custom audiences and try to get them to re-engage. And it's probably the best form of advertising because, they've kind of heard of you in the past and
Mm-hmm.
they were at some point in time interested in what you had to offer, which generally is better than like interest-based audiences, which means that like they just have a general interest in something, but they've never necessarily heard of you. So the issue is you're going to be limited by audience size. It's typical that there's more people in the universe than there are people who've heard of your business.
Yep.
So you can upload 10,000 or 100,000, maybe you get a 50% match rate, and that's helpful. What people don't necessarily understand is that remarketing has been really crippled since I would say like 5 years now, like 2020, 2019-ish. Once Safari and all the other browsers started blocking third-party cookies. That was the main mechanism that was used by Google and Facebook ad pixels. You would have a Facebook or a Google ad pixel on your website that would read a third-party cookie that was left there the last time you logged into Gmail or the last time you logged into Facebook. And so
Yep.
it could say, oh, this is Larry, he's back,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's on this website. The script could read your third-party cookie placed by Gmail or Facebook login, and it would then start that remarketing process. So that's been blocked, like
Mm-hmm.
70. It's mostly blocked, 80%. And so when you combine this visitor ID capabilities, it's quite interesting because in addition to emailing them in a timely basis, you can also send that this data is also lost to Meta and Google because their third-party cookies aren't working. So you can send that data back securely through a server connection and then remarket there. Typically, what we find is that the audience size is twice as big as what your your regular audience size is, like if you try to just use the Google or Facebook pixel alone, and usually it outperforms. So it's just hard to find things in ads that are scalable where you can like double the quantity and reduce the price, and just happens to be one of those few things.
Great. So I think we done a lot of knowledge on email marketing, and thank you so much for joining me today. Before we end this episode, do you want to share some strategies or some tips for people who want to build great email lists, or maybe just note down few?
I think the most important thing here is just to make the most of your marketing campaigns by, looking into this visitor ID tech because, whether you're doing Facebook ads or SEO or radio commercials, like all roads lead back to your website. And so this visitor ID tech is kind of like a foundational layer, like almost like infrastructure that kind of, lets you make more of all the hard work you're pouring into every other channel, social media marketing, paid ads, everything. It all flows back to the website. The only caveat is like just when you're selecting the vendors, like just make sure that that you do some amount of diligence on the data quality, and we're happy to help companies set up these data tests. It's pretty simple. You just establish sort of a baseline of truth and compare the guesses against the truth and compute an accuracy and coverage rate. It's lower than you might think, although we think ours is very, very high. That's all.
Understood. So thank you so much, Larry. It was a pleasure talking to you, and you joined really early morning. So thanks once again. And thank you so much to our listeners who have been listening so far. Make sure you subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast wherever you're listening from. Thanks and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much.